Oh, hi, everybody. Ezra Levant here. It's October 5th, and welcome to our daily show called Daily, because we do it every day. I sit here in the chair Monday, Wednesday, Friday. My friends Sheila Gunn Reid and David Menzies sit here Tuesday and Thursday. We go over the news of the day that we don't fit into our produced segments. I like to go through some of the quirky things I find on Twitter, things that aren't maybe enough to do a whole video on themselves. We bang through a lot. My friend Justin, who's normally our producer editor, is away. So we have a tag team of Mike and Efron today who have produced a huge lineup of potential topics to go through. That is so much. That is so much, guys. Thank you for doing so much preparation. But you know what? We live in such a news-dense time. I can't even believe it. I mean, just think about this weekend alone, whether you're in Ontario and Doug Ford is just announcing the whole place shut down again, or Donald Trump checking into the hospital. I understand he may be checking out today, maybe he's out already. The debate, was that on Tuesday or something? Like it wasn't even a week ago, I don't think. It feels like an eternity ago. The news cycles just keep coming. But of course, the main thing that people like about these daily live streams, I think, is the super chat. Now, Sheila and David are a little bit better at the super chats because they're a little bit better at listening than talking. I am not very good at listening, and I talk too much. But the super chat is where you get to talk back. You see to the right of the screen there's like a ticker tape of all the comments. Those are called chats, but if you can make your chat super, it's in a bright color, and either I see it out of the corner of my eye and I read it right away, or more likely, Efron and Mike will send me a little message saying, oh, don't forget this one. And I make a point to read all the super chats, the fun comments. There's Martin Sable right there. I think Ontario PC should hire PC and not someone who praises Joker in Ottawa and creating additional carbon scam, but not promoting federal PC leader. I think you're talking about Doug Ford. I think you're right. You know, someone told me the other day that the late Rob Ford used to call his brother Doug a commie. I don't have that confirmed, but it's becoming easier to believe that, don't you think? Anyway, so with the super chats, you make them super by kicking in a few dollars. The reason we like that is because YouTube actually shares some of that dough with us, which they do not do on the ad side. Did you know that only 1/3 of all Rebel videos are monetized at all? And those are typically monetized by non-premium advertisers after the 2016 election that was powered largely by social media and grassroots organic support for Donald Trump. YouTube, Google, Twitter, Facebook all cracked down. And in particular, YouTube demonetized conservative sites like ours. A lot of conservative sites just don't get any ads. They're just completely demonetized, and of course, a lot are being canceled. You have basically culled the conservatives from YouTube. We're still standing, thanks to viewer support. So one of the ways we make up for being demonetized is through super chats. So thanks for being here. You know, we've got so many videos. I'll just tell you what's on this list here. Some of these are amazing. I'm thinking of Avi's new video, but it's 14 minutes long. I don't think we want to play the whole video, but I think we probably want to do half of it. We've also got David Menzies was at Yonge and Dundas, which is sort of the Toronto version of Times Square in New York. And there's always a big anti-lockdown protest there. Kian was at a small town invasion. There's this thing going on in Alberta, I don't get it, where professional activists from the big cities, Calgary and Edmonton, are bussed into small town rural Alberta, which is the friendliest place you'll ever go, to whip up trouble. You know, I'm an Alberta boy. I was born there in 1972. You know, the province was only admitted to Confederation in 1905. The earlier ranchers were there like in the 1870s kind of thing. It's a very new province. Of course, there were Indian tribes there for centuries. But one of the things about European settlers only putting down roots, and pioneers only putting down roots in the 1870s and around then, is you don't have some of the bad history, if I can say that other places have. I've told you before that in 1793, John Simcoe, then the governor of Upper Canada, he banned the slave trade in Upper Canada, 1793. Now, I should tell you, there were only 16 black people in all of Toronto then, so it wasn't a big deal, but he nipped it in the bud because the whole British Empire was cracking down on slavery. First, they banned the slave trade, then they banned the ownership of slaves. They actually redeemed every slave. Then for 50 years, the Royal Navy hunted down slaving ships. So there was a lot of slave versus anti-slave action in other parts of the British Empire that are older. But Alberta is such a new province, none of that is there. In fact, Alberta was where a lot of, I know this sounds good, black cowboys. Can you Google John Ware? John, W-A-R-E, Alberta. John Ware, Alberta. Black cowboy. Came up from the States, as black cowboys did. Maybe there was some discrimination, maybe there was some stuff, I don't know. Come to Canada. That's the history of Alberta. There was no, there's John Ware. Very famous. In fact, in my neighborhood where I grew up, the local school was called John Ware School, named after a black cowboy. Look at him. That's what Alberta was like. People just, and he wasn't even fleeing the Underground Railroad. Like, this was not in the era of slavery. This was 50 years later, 30 years later. Look at that. That's a pioneer, that's a cowboy, John Ware. So that's the history of where I come from, and especially the small town. So imagine a US-based professional protest group taking a Black Lives Matter bus to go to these small towns in Alberta that have never had racism. If anything, they were a refuge for people leaving America, and America paid the largest price since the Pharaoh for keeping slaves. I mean, if you believe your Bible, God killed every firstborn Egyptian male as punishment. That was the 10th plague for keeping the Israelites as slaves. Let my people go. Took 10 plagues. The first, I think, was blood, turned the Nile River to blood. Imagine that. Frogs, lice, etc. 10 plagues. The Pharaoh would not bend the knee until the death of the firstborn. When Pharaoh's own firstborn son was killed by God, he said, all right, get out. Other than the Egyptians of ancient Egypt, has another society in the world paid a greater price for the liberation of slaves than has the United States of America? How many Americans died in the Civil War? Was it 600,000? And that was just on the soldiers. Of course, there were civilian deaths too, and that's on both sides. So Canada didn't even have that battle because, as I say, John Simcoe banned slaves in slave trade in 1793. We didn't even have slaves in Alberta. Alberta was very hospitable. Alberta was settled by people from around the world who came just to, if you were tough enough to make a go of it, homestead, sod hut kind of thing, you're welcome there. There's no history of racism. I went to school in the country. When I'm talking 1970s, 80s. There were, I think, 400 kids in the school. I'm talking Springbank Junior High. Cowboys and Indians. There's a bus that came in from the Indian Reserve. 400 kids. Me and my sister, the only 2 Jews in the school. Jason and Teresa Nike, the only 2 black kids in the school. And Charles and Geraldine Teixeira, the only 2 Chinese kids in the school. So there were 2 Jews, 2 blacks, 2 Chinese, and 394 regular folks. And I tell you, I was treated like royalty, and so were the Nikes. And I mean, Charles Teixeira had a tough time just because he was so quarrelsome, but everyone liked Geraldine. I'm telling you, I lived in rural Alberta. I went to a rural school that was 99% white and Gentile. And there was 2 Sikh kids too, Sunny and Bindu Channa. That's it. And I tell you that the kids who were the minorities were treated like, not royalty, but just, hey, how are you? And what's going on? And tell me about your religion and what's this? It was the best. It was the best. I can tell you that was absolutely the best. And I had been to a Jewish school when I was little, and then I went to the country school. So don't you tell me that small town rural Alberta is racist. I'm here to tell you it's not, through my lived experience. Hey, speaking of which, why don't we go to Kean at the Red Deer protests? Since you're wondering, Ezra, what are you talking about? You've been talking for 10 minutes about Alberta not being racist. Yeah, because I want to show you this video by Kean. Take a look.
I'm currently in Red Deer. We just left a residential area where Black Lives Matter and Indigenous Uprising, whatever this group is, whatever this brand of radical is today, are harassing the locals. It's actually quite terrifying what they're doing to these people who they claim are racist. Now, there's a very interesting thing going on here right now that I want to share with you now, and we'll do a larger story on it later. There are two NDP MLAs here right now. One is a former Minister of the Crown, David Eggen, and the other one is a current front bench MLA with Rachel Notley, the most radical member of her caucus, Janice Irwin, someone who has said that Extinction Rebellion should be added to the Alberta school curriculum for young kids. A violent, radical organization should be taught to them, you know, how they operate. What's great about that? That's what Janice Irwin wants, and she's today marching with someone carrying a golf club, a weapon, to a protest. The police told me that they would be confiscating it, and they failed to do so. They continued on into this protest with a golf club attached to their sign, and Janice Irwin is apparently pretty good buds with this person. There's also folks carrying communist stickers, communist paraphernalia, and the NDP, boy, are they just at home. Unfortunately for everyone at Red Deer who actually call Red Deer home, well, they feel harassed. They feel that they're being targeted with an American issue. We'll have more on this story coming a bit later. My cameraman right there is just filming. You might not be able to see him. He's got to edit this video up, and we'll put it up as soon as possible so that we can combat the radical mainstream media narrative that Red Deer folks are actually the violent instigators here, when that's obviously not the case. I hadn't seen one weapon on them, but it is for sure the Black Lives Matter activists carrying weapons here today. So more on this later.
Those people don't know Red Deer. That's probably the first time most of them have been to Red Deer. There's no racism problem in Red Deer. I've been to Red Deer 100 times. It's got to be one of the friendly, I mean, I think Newfoundland is the friendliest province in Canada. It just is. I mean, if you've never been there, you go there, and it's the friendliest place. It's just, you know, Manitoba has a license plate, friendly Manitoba. But you go to Red Deer, it is so friendly, and they just bus in 100 know-nothings. Oh yeah, look at this, a tweet from Kean. The speaker on the left just dropped the N-bomb, and NDP MLA Janice Irwin cheered with the crowd. Yeah, I bet you the N-word was said more by the protesters in that 1 hour than has been said naturally in that city of Red Deer for a year. I'm not saying every person who lives there is a saint. You know, we're all sinners, we all have flaws. But to imply that that city itself is systemically racist is the opposite of the truth. That's called a lie. I'm going to read some Super Chats. Troy asked, $5. Ezra, you did get all my Super Chats on Friday. Thank you very much. And a huge thank you to all the people at Rebel for all the hard work you do. Well, thanks very much. Solid as B-ball. We have a big problem in Ontario, no real Conservative Party. Do you think this is because Trudeau won Ontario in 2019 by highlighting Doug Ford? I don't know. But I think Doug Ford lacks the ideological spine of his brother, and much more importantly, the late Rob Ford. It's not even ideology. It's the fighting spirit. Because the media were so abusive to Rob Ford, he knew he couldn't win their love, so he didn't try, and he treated them with the appropriate disrespect. Doug Ford, perhaps as a reaction to watching his brother be marginalized, thinks, I don't want that to happen to me. I will literally do anything to make them love me, including really just being the new Liberal Party in Ontario. And what's, as you point out, what's going to happen? You're going to run to the, who's going to run to Doug Ford's right? It's so much news has happened, it's unbelievable. Is Donald Trump out of the hospital yet, do we know? Can you go to Trump's Twitter feed? That's the way to find out. You know, everyone on CNN says, my sources say, my sources say. You don't have any sources. Not a single person said, my sources say Trump's about to do a drive around. So what's his latest? Fight for President Trump. He's talking about this and that. Peace through strength. Save our Second Amendment. So he's just having fun because he's getting a lot of tweets. Pro-life, vote, massive regulation cut. So he's just having fun. He's just having fun. Obviously, he's a little bored in there. Yeah, I guess he's just, there he is. Do you want to play that video? Can you pump that up and give us some volume?
The great reports from the doctors. This is an incredible hospital, Walter Reed. The work they do is just absolutely amazing, and I want to thank them all. The nurses, the doctors, everybody here. I've also gotten to meet some of the soldiers and the first responders, and what a group. I also think we're going to pay a little surprise to some of the great patriots that we have out on the street, and they've been out there for a long time, and they've got Trump flags, and they love our country. So I'm not telling anybody but you, but I'm about to make a little surprise visit. So perhaps I'll get there before you get to see me. But I just, when I look at the enthusiasm, and we have enthusiasm like probably nobody's ever had. Our people that love the job we're doing, we have more enthusiasm than maybe anybody. So it's been a very interesting journey. I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school. This isn't the let's read the book school. And I get it, and I understand it, and it's a very interesting thing, and I'm going to be letting you know about it. In the meantime, we love the USA, and we love what's happening. Thank you.
He looks alert. He looks sharp. It's a little bit of a twinkle in his eye. I don't hear a cough. He doesn't look bad. He probably has TV makeup on, but so what? So do I. I like the look without the tie. That's a crisp white shirt there. I know he's a tie guy, but I sort of like the casual, slightly casual Trump. He's not a casual guy, is he? Unless he's playing golf. I don't think he owns anything other than a suit. Have you ever seen him in anything other than a suit besides when he's at the golf? I haven't. He looks fine there. I like his, I'm telling you a secret, I'm going to go out and meet. He obviously timed that to be released like 1 second before he came in. Do we have the vid of him doing a little tour in the Beast? Now there's different vehicles. This is an SUV. There's a sedan limo version of the Beast, but he was going around in this behemoth. Do we have that vid? It was just so great. And you can see how thick the glass is. It's bulletproof glass. It's hermetically sealed. Like now, he was wearing a mask in there. I think he's being a little more compliant on the mask thing, just because there's a lot of critics around. But he did a victory lap because outside the Walter Reed Medical Center, where he has been for the last few days, there was hundreds of Trump supporters who just sort of spontaneously went outside. Now, I understand that someone, maybe it was the Trump campaign, was sending them pizza and sending them snacks, and there's a lot of folks who went down there. And Trump, being Trump, he's not going to sit in the hotel. He gets in the hog. I don't know what they call that big beast of a SUV. I know they call the sedan limo, I think they call that the Beast. So yeah, so here, look at that front car there. I think it was the front car. Trump was going, he was literally in the vehicle, waving at everyone there. He just did a little lap, nice and slow. Do we have a still image of him? Because he couldn't really see him. I think he was actually on the right-hand side of the vehicle, and that was the left-hand side. Yeah. I like this tweet by, they see me rolling, they hate it. He's riding dirty. That's what's going on. He's riding dirty. Biden's hiding, and Trump is riding. That's what's going on. Ezra, what's going on? Ezra, can you tell me what's going on in the form of a rap song? Yeah. They see him rolling. They hate him because he's riding dirty. Thanks, everybody. Let's get back on track. Katrina Panova says, YouTube has pushed mainstream news to the top of my feed instead of the regular content I usually watch, Rebel and others. Guilbeault's doing? Alas, Guilbeault surely supports it, but I must tell you that this is YouTube's doing. What's the name? I can't remember the name of the president of YouTube, but I just forgot it. Sorry, I forgot her name. Because it's slightly hard to pronounce last name. Can you remind me who the president of YouTube is? She has a blog, and she talked about boosting and de-boosting sites based on quality. What's her name again? Susan Wojcicki, I think. Is that it? Wojcicki? I'm sorry, I don't know how to properly say that name. Susan Wojcicki is how I would say it. I apologize, I'm not trying to get it wrong. I just don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's instead of I think it's Wojcicki. So she's the president of YouTube. Can you Google Susan Wojcicki Boost, B-O-O-S-T? Because she wrote a position paper. Yeah, boosting, right there. YouTube keeps boosting authoritative mainstream media outlets, although viewers don't want to watch them, says Susan Wojcicki. So you can see, so look at this. What's our source here? Digital Information World. It doesn't matter because they quote her. YouTube and its executives have made it evident during the past few years that when it comes to news and ongoing events, YouTube's suggestion tools will boost official mainstream media channels while suppressing independent YouTube creators covering that specific news. Susan Wojcicki, CEO of YouTube, stated during an interview on the New York Times Rabbit Hole podcast that most users of the platform don't like to view these dependable news sources. Still, YouTube will continue to boost these sources anyhow. She decided to start prioritizing authentic mainstream media outlets in the wake of an unfortunate event, which was executed in Nice, France during the blah, 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 blah. So yes, so this is a news report, but she herself has said this. I first learned the word boosting and de-boosting in her blog, where she said, even if everybody wants an alternative point of view, she will force feed YouTube viewers the government point of view. She just, and you don't think that's manifesting itself in the election? In fact, we got a special intervention, I think I might have told you this the other day, from YouTube, that if we interview anyone about the pandemic lockdown, and they say anything even slightly contrarian to the official medical consensus, we have to put a disclaimer right there on the page. Okay, fine, I don't want to lose our channel over it, but our disclaimer says YouTube requires that we indicate that, YouTube requires that we indicate that some opinions in this video contradict the consensus medical opinion about COVID-19. So they just wanted us to say some opinions in this video contradict the consensus, but I'm not saying that on my own. I'm not censoring people on my own. If I'm going to be censored, which I am, I'm going to tell you who's making me censor it. YouTube is. Were we going to show some of this clip anyways? Yeah? Why don't we take a look at that since we got that on the screen? Let's take a look. Go ahead.
I see that a lot of people are wearing the mask because they still have the fear and they want to comply. I will not comply. I'm a rebel and I will remain one.
Oh, well, God bless you then. We're Pride, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. And folks, if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com. Sometimes we have legal fees, sometimes we have bodyguards that we need to hire, but it's all worth it when it comes to telling you the other side of the story. Well, you know, can you believe it that Grinch John Tory a few days ago, he stole Christmas. Well, not exactly, but he canceled the Santa Claus parade, even though every time I've ever seen a Santa Claus parade in its 100-year history here in Toronto, it tends to be attracting children, and we know children are virtually invulnerable to the Wuhan virus, but the Santa Claus parade is yet another casualty of this virus. But you know what, folks? I've decided to rebrand myself as Santa Menzoid today. That's because, as you know, we're selling these I am exempt badges for $10, but we had a generous donor buy several thousand of these badges, and he wants us to distribute them. So I have a sack of several hundred. Anyone that wants one, or even two, well, let me do the math on that. That's a $20 value if you take two. Holy mackerel. So yes, it's Christmas in September here at Yonge Dundas Square, and time for me to start handing out the treats. Yeah, because I think they're going to cancel Halloween too. By the way,
absolutely.
$10 value for free today.
All right, we'll just.
While supplies last. Don't forget that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, in case.
Good work.
Thank you, sir.
For a while, it's just really fun. You know, I was talking this morning to Schwa FM, as the sound suggests, is Francais. They go by Radio X or Pirate Radio. And I thought about, well, Pirate Radio, we call ourselves Rebel News. There's a spirit there. There's a common spirit of dissent. And I was interviewed by them this morning. It's a French language station in the city of Quebec. And of course, I don't speak French. I can understand some, yeah. So I was glad to be on there. They interviewed me en anglais. I think most of their people speak English. And I tried to be clear. I don't know if I was. And the host was a little bit disconsolate, a little bit demoralized. And I said, look, you are proof that people who feel the same way as you, skeptical about government lockdowns, skeptical about the World Health Organization, skeptical about censorship. I don't know if you know this, but the city of Quebec canceled all its ads on Schwa FM as punishment because they were disagreeing with the government on pandemic rules, which just proves that anyone who still takes ad money from the government of Quebec, I mean the city, that is, it's just pay for play. It's payola. It's government placing their, I mean, if you want ad money, do what the government says. If you don't do what the government says, you won't get ad money. So Schwa FM is banned, and the other good little boys are getting the money. It's not about advertising. It's not about reaching eyeballs. It's about compliance. We know that. So I said to my interviewer, I said, it's so important that Schwa FM stays on the air so every listener doesn't think, oh my God, am I the crazy one? Is the world crazy or am I crazy? If you don't know that other people share your view, you're skeptical, you're wondering why we've shut down the whole world to something that has a death toll similar to the annual flu death toll. There's what, 9,200 deaths in Canada so far? Very unhappy to hear it. Each death is a tragedy. Average age, mid-80s. You know, the average death toll from the flu every year is between 6,500 and 8,500. So this is 10% higher than an average year's flu death toll. And I'm unhappy that people die, but we're all going to die someday of something. And if I'm going to die, I'd rather die in my 80s than in my 20s or 30s or 40s. Death tolls have been rising for people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s because they haven't been able to get into regular health care because of drug use and suicide. Far more, and in Toronto, I follow the Toronto Police Operations Center Twitter because it's just a reminder of the absolutely insane crime wave in Toronto. Guns, 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 and I always retweet. But like they tweet breaking gunfire. It's a police Twitter account. And I often reply, but were they wearing their masks? Got to wear the masks. Look at that. Toronto Police Operations. Sounds of gunshots. Stevendale Drive and Confederation Drive. 10:55 p.m. Reports of sounds of gunshots in the area. Officers are on scene checking the area. Evidence of gunfire has been located. No reported injuries at this time. Oh, no problem then. Let's just make sure they're all wearing their masks. Were they socially distancing? Guns are better than knives for that. If you're using a knife, you got to be like really close, and that's a no-no. Do not stab people. You are violating the social distancing, okay? Yeah. Am I getting all the super chats? Bernard Hutchison, 549. Politicians dug a big hole with no out, saving face. Yeah, you're right. Once you commit to this path, once you give credibility to these unelected public health officials, how do you say, oh, you know, this route we've been on for 6 months, these decisions we've made, they're not really, I didn't mean to do that. But how do you break out of that when you've committed to that? Zen Axe, $2. Rebel covering the October 26th by-election for Toronto York Centre. Is that what TY Centre is? Yeah, I think we're going to cover politics. There's a couple of by-elections. There's, I think, York Centre, I think, and then Toronto Centre. Maybe I got the names of those ridings. Plus, we've got an election, I think, the same day in Saskatchewan. Plus, we got a British Columbia election. So there's lots of elections afoot. Mark, $5. Why did Black Lives Matter use the RCMP as security for the protests in Red Deer, Alberta yesterday? I thought they wanted the police defunded. That is a great point, Mark. That is such a great point. Hey, and by the way, can I get the RCMP to provide free security for me on demand? Because one of our largest expenses around here, largest expenses is staff, second largest expense, lawyers, then rent, then security guards. That's how it goes around here. Because we have to hire security guards because otherwise Antifa beats our people up. Not beats our people up. Our people have never been beat up, but they've been hit. I don't want to overstate, but they've been hit. I don't like our people being hit. So it's probably our fourth largest expense, hiring bodyguards. Can I get free RCMP personal protection like Black Lives Matter did on the weekend? How come? How come I can't? Daximus K, $5. Ezra, Ontario.ca explicitly says face coverings will not protect you from getting COVID-19. Check it out, their own words. Yeah, we know that. I mean, I think the other day in my monologue I read the Centers for Disease Control. That's the large public health agency in the United States, perhaps the largest in the world, the most resources. I think it's the most authoritative in the world. They did a meta study, I think of 14 states. So what they did is they looked at all the other research in the world on masks. I remember some of the examples. People going to the Hajj, that's the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca. Some wore masks, some didn't. So that was an example of one of the 14 studies they had. Another one was in college dorms, if I recall. So they had these 14 mask studies, like real world mask studies, and in no case did they find that the mask gave protection from the flu or the virus. And they explained in this study, I wonder if you can find that. I don't know, you know what, it's hard to find if you don't know the link. It's on CDC, Centers for Disease Control, I think it's .gov. Mask study. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's that easy. 14 studies. And in there they sort of explain why dentists wear masks. Because you see it, you know, you go to the dentist, they always have that little mask, right? So you're thinking, well, if a dentist wears a mask, it must be worth something, right? Yeah, it's not to start up a virus, which is so small. It's because they're right over you. You got your mouth open, and they're right over you. You don't want some spit in there. This is not the study I had in mind, but pump it up a little bit. Can you pump up I'll read the extract. Cloth masks have been used in healthcare and community settings to protect the wearer from respiratory infections. The use of cloth masks during the coronavirus is under debate. The filtration effectiveness of cloth masks is generally lower than that of medical masks and respirator. However, cloth masks may provide some protection if well designed and used correctly. Multi-layer cloth masks designed to fit around the face and made of water-resistant fabric with a high number of threads and finer weave may provide reasonable protection until a cloth mask design is proven to be equally effective as a medical or N95 mask. Wearing cloth masks should not be mandated for healthcare workers. In community settings, however, cloth masks may be used to prevent community spread of infections by sick or asymptomatically infected persons, and the public should be educated about the correct use. Okay, this sounds like an opinion piece. I don't think this is a study. I have read another CDC piece. Maybe I'll find it if we have time. It's a study of 14 studies. It's a meta study. Don't knock yourself up. So that's just like some opinion, But what about let's actually test? And they said there's no evidence that masks work. Certainly not for a virus, which is so small it passes between the weave. We're citing the Centers for Disease Control, but if I just said this off the top of my head, I'd probably have to put a YouTube warning. Warning, you're saying something that the government does not approve of. So I said to my friends at Schwa FM, keep going as long as you can. You have to let other people know that they're not the only ones in the world who feel that way. Let's see if we got the super chats. Martin Sable, $5. I wonder how and why would people vote trust fund baby Justin twice? We need Pierre to be PM. I wonder how many left BLM lovers will vote for Dougie. I think you mean Pierre Poilievre. Yes, I agree. He was excellent. He is an excellent MP. I don't know why he backed out. It looked like he was going to run for the leader. I think he would have won. Maybe someone dug up some dirt on him and showed him, like basically extorted him. I know that sounds dramatic, but it was so abrupt how he quit. He was starting to tour the country. He had an exploratory committee or something going on, and then he just suddenly set him out. It was shocking. Muzzle Flash, $2. Has anyone died of influenza this year? There's a lot of ways to interpret your question, because who knows how those are being counted, and who knows if those have shown up under a generic coronavirus test. COVID-19 is the name of a particular coronavirus. There are other coronaviruses out there, as you probably know. Lulu, £5. Keep up the good work, you guys. Well, thank you very much. Hey, I want to tell you about a video. I mentioned this at the top of the show. We've taken 11 court cases in Canada from people who have been given insane pandemic fines and tickets. You can find them all at fightthefines.com. Very compelling stories. 2 pastors who were feeding the homeless get tickets, $1,000 tickets for feeding the homeless. Yes, that's a social gathering. No, it's not. It's not a gathering. They're homeless. Tickets. Fines, $1,000 fines. The famous case of Walter Matheson from New Brunswick, great guy, sitting in his car alone having a muffin and coffee. Yeah, there's so many great stories there. Tamara Ugolini walking on the beach, $880 ticket. We hired Tamara as a reporter. She's so good. Yeah, there's one case, we won a case that one of the pastors had the charges dropped against him. Oh yeah, David was going to those little circles painted in the park there. Anyway, we have 11 cases that we've taken. We've hired lawyers. And each case is compelling in its own way. There was a single mom. Yeah, there's that fella there who, I forget his name off the top of my head. He was by himself with a metal detector in an empty park. Oh, that terrible case there in North Bay, our 8th case. They handcuffed the mom and separated her from her daughter, single mom. Heartbreaking. I don't want to watch that video now. I mean, I showed as B-roll. But it's just, if you haven't watched that video, it'll make you furious. A mom alone in a park with her daughter. No one else was in the park. No one else. Some snitch calls 911. Cops come right out, handcuff the mom, put her in the back of the car. Daughter says, "Am I getting a new mummy now?" No one was in the park. Who's the snitch? Who's the snitch? I tell you, we sometimes think we're morally superior to the Soviets or the Nazis. How would you have acted? What would you have done in the 1930s in Germany? What you're doing now is probably a good guide. Would you have been a snitch? Would you have been an informant? Would you have taken the sides of increasingly overweening police, violating civil liberties? Don't tell me what you would have done. I can see what you would have done. Imagine snitching on this mom and her daughter. Why? Outside is actually the safest place to be from this virus. Imagine, this woman was cooped up with her daughter for 2 months in a small apartment, goes out for fresh air. Some snitch calls the cops. Boy, would I love to know who that snitch was. Well, we have had 11 great cases in Canada. But like you, I have seen astounding videos from the world's strictest lockdown, not North Korea, not Wuhan itself, not Havana, Cuba, but from the lovely city of Melbourne, Australia. I have been to that lovely city. I really like it. I really like Melbourne. I mean, Sydney's a jewel, but I like Melbourne. It's a modern, big, bustling city. It's in the state of Victoria. It's in the southeast part of Australia. It's a big city. It's as big as Toronto. The city is really most of the population in the state. The state's called Victoria. Melbourne is almost everybody. So it has its state government. Dan Andrews is the premier there. He's bizarre. He goes to China and negotiates treaties. He's not even the foreign minister of Australia. He's like a little state premier. He negotiates some secret treaty, keeps the details secret. Who are you? Are you actually working for the Communist Party? Well, it sort of looks like it. He's bringing communist-style martial law. They have checkpoints on the street. They have a curfew at night. You travel more than 5 kilometers from your house without a permit, you get a ticket. Crazy, crazy. So we hired my old buddy, Avi Amini, to be our chief Australia correspondent. We haven't had boots on the ground in Australia in over a year, since Mark Latham worked for us. On his very second day that we hire Avi on a Friday, we sent him to a report on a set. Can we just grab the picture of him being slammed down? You know, just like another picture, just give me 5 seconds of sound on tape for his arrest. So we hire Avi on a Friday. We say, go cover as a journalist the anti-pandemic lockdown thing. And he stayed with the other reporters, and he had a mic flash that said Rebel, and he had the permits. It was all kosher. He went through a checkpoint. He showed his papers. They said, you're good to go. And just, I know you've seen this, but take a look at this again for 10 seconds.
Quite peaceful until...
They've got us!
This guy here is not here for any purpose of reason.
Toby, they've got
Putting him
us!
under arrest. But this guy here is going to be placed under arrest right now.
Well, I'm under arrest. Yeah, I'm media. I am media. I'm media.
Cooperate with the rules later, at the moment.
I've got my permit in my pocket. My permit is in my pocket. I'm fine.
Yeah, they'd never do that for Black Lives Matter. Are you crazy? But a reporter, not even a protester. Well, what the heck are they wearing, those exoskeletons? What is that? What are you doing? Anyway, so that's Avi. We hired him in Melbourne. By the way, we're suing the police over that. We filed a lawsuit at the Supreme Court in Victoria. We're going to win, obviously. There was no basis whatsoever for arresting him, slamming him to the ground, handcuffing him. No basis whatsoever. None whatsoever. None. We're going to win. But we put up the Fight the Fines project in Canada has been very successful. And thank you to everyone who's chipped in. But boy, those videos out of Melbourne got me revved up. So I said, Avi, why don't you copy our approach? He knows some lawyers. Let's crowdfund. So let's get the lawyer doing the lawyering. Let's get Avi doing the journalisming. We'll crowdfund the dough for the lawyers. And let's put up a website called fightthefines.com.au. That's how they do it down there. They do the .com, then they add the .au. That stands for Australia. So we put up the website, fightthefines.com.au. In the first day and a half, we get 50 people, 50, say, I need help. Tell us your story. You see that? Free legal defense. So there's a bunch of buttons here. Tell us your story. So we had 50 people fill that out. And if you scroll back up, people can donate, because that's how it works. It's all the different parts. So we have a few cases. We got the fellow Victor Tay in Sydney. But I'd like to play the video we rolled out last night, Canada time, this morning, Australia time. It's 14 minutes, and we don't have that much time. But let's see how much time, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to read the Super Chats. Michael Hanna, Super Chat, $10, says, the Niagara Regional Police Dispatcher said if you're not wearing a mask, you're a part of the problem. Recording of the entire call. Okay, well, I'll listen to that. Libby T, $5. I thought that news story about Black Lives Matter and witchcraft was alarming. about Drea's story. Well, that's a great, Drea's great, isn't she? Robert Stone, $5. My brother was diagnosed with prostate cancer in March and to this date has not been able to access therapy because of the Wuhan flu. Exactly. There's 150,000 surgeries in Ontario alone that are delayed. 150,000. All right. I saw this come in on the website form. I saw this come in. I look at it. I said to Avi, I said, if this is a real story, if this is real, because who knows? It's a website. It could be anyone writing something. It could be a trick. I said, Avi, go check this out. Can this actually have happened? And this is the video that came from that. Here's Avi's video.
They got out of the car and then started asking me, why am I out of my house after curfew? Like I explained to them, this is my house. I'm living here. I don't understand what they mean, how am I out of my house? It's the only place that I have got to stay. Besides that, like on a park bench, but a car is much safer, warmer. You know, at least you've got doors to lock so no one can really attack you. They could throw stuff at your car, but that's about it. There's not much you can really do if you're in a car, so I don't think they should be giving fines. They should be helping. That's what the police are meant to be there for, to help people, not to harass. I don't feel lucky about the fine, but I feel luckier than some other homeless people that have got nothing. I would say to the officers, have a heart and think about, you know, people that are doing it hard and maybe give them a break. To take half the money I've saved to get into a place, it's a big kick. At least I've got something to put stuff in and be a bit safe. You know, have the rain off my head. Now, it might not be the most comfortablest, it might not be the most best situation, but at the moment that's all we can do. I know if I'd seen someone on the street, like I've given my jacket to a homeless person before because they were freezing cold. You know, you don't go giving them, you know, throwing rocks at them. Pretty much that's what the police did. They threw rocks at me. I believe in God and stuff like that, and I've been asking him, please help me with these fines, help me with the house, and he's answered one of my prayers because you rang me and Madeline's been in contact with me, and it's really, I feel really, really blessed to have someone that actually cares.
Avi Yamini here from the world's capital of COVID enforcement. We're in the state of Victoria where 20,000 fines for COVID breaches have already been issued. Now, since we launched fightthefines.com.au, we've been inundated with outrageous stories, but none more outrageous than the one you're about to hear. Daniel Wright grew up locally to Mornington Peninsula, but due to circumstances, not by choice, he's been living in his car. Daniel Wright was here on this corner on the 10th of August when he was pulled over by 2 Victoria police officers and fined $1,650 for essentially being homeless because they say he was breaching the COVID curfew by being in his car, which is where he sleeps. He tried to explain that to the officers who were not having a bar of it. Daniel's story came through fightthefines.com.au, and when I saw it, I was outraged, and I knew I had to share it with you, and I know you're going to share it with everyone. And together we're going to crowdfund to fight for his case. So fightthefines.com.au. Share Daniel's story.
I haven't had my own place for 4 years at the moment, which is way too long for me. I'm like really starting to get stressed. I've had back surgery, and it just doesn't help being where I'm at.
So is this a life choice? Are you doing this because you want to sleep in your car?
No, not at all.
So how does it feel then getting pulled up for breaching curfew, which means that you were outside of your house while being in the place that you sleep at night, not by choice?
I was being picked on. I felt like they were bullying me. They got out of the car and then started asking me, why am I out of my house after curfew? Like I explained to them, this is my house. I'm living here. I don't understand what they mean, how am I out of my house?
This is your last resort. You don't have anywhere else. That's what
correct.
people need to understand. And you made that clear to the cops that night.
Yeah, 100% clear. Yeah, it's quite clear that I live in my car. There's all the clothes in the boot, there's blankets in the back. I felt they were very heartless in the way they treated me. And then they said, well, you're on your license, is this address? You must be at this address.
Now your ID has your mum's address
on it, yep, and has since I got my learner's permit because I can't read and write, so it's always been at that address. It's never ever changed.
And that's the basis of their argument. Your home address,
Yeah.
You weren't there, but it hasn't been your home for how many years?
for since I was 16 years old, and I'm now 38.
I've told you before off camera, I've spent a couple nights in my life as a kid, as a young teenager on the street, and I don't wish that upon my worst enemies. So, but I couldn't imagine being fined for sleeping in the last place I want to sleep.
No, yeah, it's not fun at all to be fined for sleeping somewhere that's not comfortable, cold, plus you've got idiots that want to come up and do stuff. You know, you feel threatened and scared anyway as you're out there, but I'd much rather be in a house where I don't have to worry. You know, I'm sure everyone would rather be in a house and be somewhere where they can park their car up and then they can just go inside and relax.
If you pay that fine, then you're going to be homeless for longer because half the money you've saved to get a home is gone.
Yeah, over half the money, because it's $1,650. I have $3,000 there to get a place.
Well, guess what? You're not going to have to do that because everybody at home is going to watch this and they're going to crowdfund your defence to fight that fine. And you've got Madeline, who you've already spoken to, who I can tell you firsthand is a gun lawyer. She's won every single my criminal cases that were politically motivated until now. She's won 7 of them for me. So you are in brilliant hands. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Feel pretty blessed. And I thank you and everyone for all their help, because yeah, it's very helpful, because I've been to court before and you know they don't really listen to you, and to pay for a lawyer, I don't know how much it's going to cost, but I'm sure it's going to be a couple of $1,000s.
It's going to be far more than the fine, but this is why people want to jump in, because we could just pay the fine, we could crowdfund just the fine, but I think it's the principle here.
Yeah, it's not the point. That's right, it's not the point.
Thanks for joining us today, Madeline, and thank you for taking on Daniel's shocking case. I know you can't tell us everything, but what can you tell us about Daniel's case?
Daniel's case raises some interesting and important questions, both legally and socially.
The video goes on for another 5 or 10 minutes, and I don't want to use up the rest of the show for that, but you get a flavor for it. $1,652 fine for sleeping in his car, because that's breaking curfew. And he has to go home, that is his home. He's in his car. If I understood the story right, the arrest was after midnight. He's in his car. It's not a nice place to be, but that's where he is. After midnight, no one around, cops come to his car. Oi, mate, why are you here? I don't know why I'm doing it in a Cockney accent, it's Australia. They say, why are you here, mate? It's where I live. Well, your driver's license says you have another home. No, that's my mom's home. I haven't lived there in 22 years because I needed some street address for the mail. Where's the public health risk? He doesn't have the Rona. He's not out and about. He's in his car, windows up. Where's the health risk? Curfew. He is in bed because unfortunately he's sleeping in his car. And imagine, instead of wanting to help the guy, or just say, hey, you want a sandwich? If he's hungry, whatever. I don't know. What do you do? You're talking to a homeless guy at some length. You harass him a bit. He says, this is where I am. At worst, you leave him alone. Maybe you give him a sandwich. I don't know. Give him a few bucks. I don't know. Imagine saying, there's no problem here. There's no real problem here. You're not bugging anyone. No one's bugging you. There's no one on the streets midnight. I am going to fine you $1,652, more than half of the money you have in the world, money you're saving up to get into an apartment again. You saved $3,000. Imagine thinking that will make the world better, more law-abiding, to serve and protect. Who are you serving, mate? Who are you protecting? Imagine thinking that taking half of a homeless man's savings for some stupid fine that he actually hasn't even broken. He's in his home, his car. Imagine thinking that is the right thing to do. Imagine saying, I'm going to the police academy. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a policeman. Oh, you're applying to the police academy now. Why do you want to be a policeman? Because I want to go to a car where a homeless guy is sleeping in the middle of an economic wreckage, not bothering anybody, not committing any offense. Very articulate man, would you agree with me? Very articulate, very compelling, Very persuasive, very thoughtful, very calm. I tell you, I mean, I don't know a lot of homeless people, but boy, was he articulate. And imagine thinking, I'm going to give this guy a $1,652 ticket. Ha ha! To serve and protect. That's why I went to the police academy. That's why I carry a gun. That's why I go around with my flashers. Woo, woo, pull over. Why? Was there robbery? Was there murder? Got a big drug deal going on? What's going on? God forbid, was there a rape? No. I just got some guy in his car. You're violating the curfew. I just gave him a $1,652 fine. Sounds like the cops were violating the curfew, though, weren't they? He was in his car, which is where he sleeps. They were out and about. Why were the cops out and about? Were they spreading the Rona? Very frustrating. Let me check the clock. 12:55. Let me catch up on Super Chat. Are there more Super Chats, guys? I think I caught up on those. Yeah, very frustrating. Why are you picking on that guy? You know, sometimes cops pull over someone and this person's really belligerent and the cop has discretion and maybe the cop would have let him go, but the suspect is just such an abrasive, antagonistic, belligerent person. The cop says, you know, the heck with it, I'm giving you a ticket. It's within the cop's discretion. Imagine finding that gentle man who's so even-keeled, who it looks like he wouldn't hurt a flea. I mean, listen, looks can be deceiving. Maybe he's an accomplished deceiver, but I don't think so. And imagine instead of saying, all right, mate, well, good luck to you, or all right, mate, just stay out of trouble, imagine saying, I'm going to fine him $1,652. And how are you going to fight that? I've been in court more than once. You're always paying more for lawyers than you are for a ticket. A couple of Super Chats, not a band account, $2. When will we get our pre-COVID freedoms returned? Well, I think freedoms aren't given, they're taken. So you got to take your freedom back. Where's your politicians? Where's your lawyers? Where's your media? Where's your professors? Where's everybody? Where's everybody here? Bernard Hutchison, $4. What happened with stormtrooper arrest in Alberta? Are you talking about, the gal in Lethbridge, who the police, oh my God, that was infuriating. You know, I wanted to reach out and assist that girl with a lawsuit against the police. You know what I'm talking about? There's a video, I don't know if you guys can find it. It's at like some fantasy Star Wars-y kind of place, and some gals out front with like a stormtrooper guy, like, you know, yeah, that's her. That's not real. You know that's not real, right? There's no such thing as stormtroopers. Like there's a thing called a stormtrooper. Look at that. And the police come. This is real. And the police come, pull their arms, just pull the gun out. Get down on the get down on the ground. This is at you can't see this, but it's to the right there. There's a Star Wars themed place that has been there for years. Get down on the ground. Got a gun out. Face down on the concrete. Cop comes over. What kind of gun is that? Cop comes over to tell the cameraman to turn it off or whatever he's saying. Just up there to the right, you can see, yeah, you see it said restaurant there? Do you see that word very quickly? I forget the name of the restaurant. It's like a Star Wars themed restaurant. Yeah, right there. I forget the name of the restaurant. It's not that important. Her boss was standing there, really not doing anything. What a disgrace he is. I thought about reaching out to help the girl with the lawsuit, but I thought, you know what? She's got a boss. I'm not gonna get involved there. But what a disgraceful boss. Just allowing that to happen, just standing there. I don't think the boss is in the frame of this video. I think there's another video of the same thing, showing the boss, the big loser that he is. It's 1 o'clock on the dot. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today. What do you think of fightthefines.com.au? Abby's doing a great job down there. That was our second case. I kid you not when I say we've had 50 plus cases. Oh, there's another super chat. Let me just, can you put that in the WhatsApp? Because that's how I've been looking for them. I'm just scrolling for it. Can you just put that, because I don't know which one it was. There it is. Not banned account. When will we get our pro-COVID freedoms returned? I think I answered that, which is, it's harder to get a freedom back than to stop from losing it in the first place. That is, fight to keep your freedoms, because once it's gone, try getting it back. There's so many examples that don't have to be very dramatic. The income tax, just till we get through this great war, the income tax was brought in World War I. Just till we get through the war. Yeah, World War I's over, mate. Or TSA, take your shoes off before you go on a plane. Get groped. Stand in line like cattle. Just till we get through this little 9/11 thing. Security theater. Now we're getting mask theater. Yeah, I'm worried that some of our pre-COVID freedoms may never return. But what I would say to you is fight for the ones you have now before they're gone, because it's a lot easier to keep them than to win them back. All right, every day I do this. Justin, who is normally the producer-editor, he curates, that's a fancy word for chooses, a dog video, because dog videos always make people feel better, always, unless it's like an attack dog attacking someone. So I like to end the live streams with a dog video, and I would like to say thanks to Efron and Mike for holding the fort today. I'll say goodbye to you now. I've got a show tonight at 8 p.m. I'm going to talk about Doug Ford and his bizarre love affair for authoritarian lockdowns. So that's at 8 p.m. Until then, let me say goodbye to you now and leave you with this dog video. See you later.